Sunrise Striders by Zap Candriod Wires. 1874, North Equatorial Current, the Pacific Ocean. Chapter 1, Kokai. Leaning on a railing, a man shudders in the tropical heat of summer. As he listens to the turning of the starboard paddle wheel pushing through the water, he feels as if a similar device is within his gut. The steamship sways continually and worsens the sensation, shifting the blue horizon before him. While lightly gagging, the man closes his eyes slowly, attempting to think of something steady and reliable. That short blonde in Texas? Certainly not. Not after the knife collection fiasco. The black Mustang he rode on that hunt 13 years ago, whatever her name was? The journey went over some rough hills. Bad choice. The bed he slept in at that hotel in San Francisco Chinatown before departure? Now that was stable. Genuine silk sheets, a couple burning incense on a nightstand, and a distant whistling of "Hey!" The smile is gone from the reminiscing's face as he turns to the one who barked this. He looks over the fellow's getup. Sandals, dark pants with torn holes over both knees, and a purple sash around the waist that barely conceals the biggest pistol he's ever seen holstered in the right pocket. A red bandana sagging around his neck, and a black mustache. Do you need money? You could use a shirt. The ragged inquirer puts his thumbs in his dark pants and elaborates. I do not intend to use your money for new fur. I'm gonna get me another one of these Smith & Wesson Model 3s. The seasick fellow leaning back against a railing lifts his hat with his left thumb slightly and tugs at his yellow poncho, adorned with a single thick, black vertical stripe on each of its sides, using his right hand a little, showing the gun holstered on his hip before saying, Sounds like I'm gonna have to give you a whole lot of dollars. The Smith & Wesson enthusiast grins, revealing his two front teeth are missing as he responds. You're a smart feller, ain't you? Don't try nothing with that iron of yours, or you'll lose more than some coins. I'm too quick for you, especially with you ready to upchuck all over the deck. The man in the yellow poncho squints his eyes and stands up off of the railing and utters, How much are you willing to wager on that? The bandit gets his thumbs out of his dark pants and unties the sash from his waist, tying it to his sweaty forehead. Everything. A pair of seagulls land on the deck and strut around for a short while. The waves calm down and go quiet. The gulls squawk and take off, no longer audible. The ship stays still as the pair glare at one another, the sun casting shadows directly overhead now that masks their eyes. A strong gust of humid wind blows a wooden bucket on its side, and it rolls past in between the two towards the bow, as the loose ends of the opportunist's purple sash flutter to the west. The man in the yellow poncho swiftly reaches for his revolver and removes it from the holster, but his opponent leans backward with haste, gripping and firing his gun first. The seasick duelist stumbles back into the railing and retaliates as he reaches for his chest with his spare hand, shooting his smaller firearm twice in quick succession and dropping his foe to the floor. The last man standing starts to breathe heavily as several pieces of paper fall between his legs and catch a whirlwind, flying upwards and away from the ship in a circle. He spits on the deck and folds his poncho over his shoulder, revealing a large book bound to his torso by a leather belt with a smoking hole in it that says this on the cover. Japanese in 444 Easy Pages by Glenn Charleston. Unbuckling the tome from his person, it drops to the floor with a thud, and he looks over the still body of the gunman. He catches the brilliant glint of the .44 caliber hand cannon reflecting the sun, barrel still smoking, and picks it up. Chapter 2, Cabin 71. Enter Ryder Domingo. The woozy gunslinger stumbles through the door, falling backwards onto his bed. He clears his throat, turns to face the man in a yellow kimono, adorned with a thick black vertical stripe on each of its sides as well, with his face stuffed in a book, and says, Take a gander. The tall reader lays the text down on his lap and sees an impressive, gleaming pistol in his bunkmate's hand. The poncho-clad one on his back turns the cylinder counterclockwise twice with his thumb, and it makes clicking noises. Sugoi. Ryder sits up in the bed like his compatriot, locks his eyes on the gun, and replies, Mighty Sugoi. This is a .44. It could blow a hole through a grizzly bear. After your 12 shots, won't it take too long to reload? Filling each cylinder with powder, balls, caps. My only limit is my Iaido skill. He finishes the sentence while slightly unsheathing his katana, and then putting it back. Matsumoto, guns have changed since the war. This .44 and my .45 Colt single-action army are not cap and ball shooters. They're cartridge irons. Domingo opens the loading gate on a single-action army, tilts it upwards, and pushes down on the ejector rod underneath the barrel. See? A bullet falls out of the cylinder and he catches it with his right hand. This isn't a ball, it's a .45 long Colt cartridge. I don't need to carry separate sacks of gunpowder, blasting caps, and balls anymore, as all of that combined into this piece of metal. I can empty and load all 6 cylinders in under 30 seconds. If I walk into a shootout with a full 6-gun, that means 18 dead men in 1 minute, if I'm good enough. Matsumoto nods in understanding before saying, Totemo yokata desu, Nihongo o benkyo shimishita ka? Ryder removes the bullets from the gun, places them in his belt loops, and then twirls the weapon with speed as he replies, Yup. The Japanese man grins slightly and claps. His grin leaves once he begins to explain. In 1858, my family plotted to kill Emperor Kome. We took over a buto of Buddha and used it as our fortress. A monk who declared a vow of silence and kept it for 30 years broke it, to warn the magistrate of our plan. The gunslinger adjusts the way he's sitting and continues to quietly listen. Older and younger brothers, they committed harakiri when the Cicada clan samurai arrived. I escaped swimming down a river. Instead of telling Kyoto, the magistrate was bribed by the Cicada clan, and instead they slay us and take our ancestral treasures. Old servant of the Matsumoto family told me. Ryder says, Are we going to kill Kome? Ronin glares at him and furrows his brow. Baka! Kome died with the Edo period! He throws the book on his lap at Domingo, the American blocking it with his arms. It falls on the floor face up and reads on the cover, English in 111 Easy Pages by Glenn Charleston. The man in the yellow poncho puts his hand on his chin and tilts his head from side to side, small cracking noises emanating from his neck. We're going to kill the Cicada clan. The yellow kimono-wearing swordsman before him nods and says, You'll get half of my family's treasure if you survive. Chapter 3, Niyuho Waito, Osaka Prefecture, within the Nara Prefecture today. Ducking slightly as he struts forth, a sweaty customer shifts to red and orange while entering the izakaya. The skinny man with a tender smile standing next to the shelf of sake bottles bows and says, Konnichiwa, samurai. Nani ga dekimasu ka? The bartender stops himself when the westerner with the leather boots steps in behind the Ronin. Matsumoto sits on the bamboo mat in front of the bar and lays his wakizashi on his lap, still keeping his katana bound in a yellow obi that's difficult to spot as it matches his kimono in tone. European animals aren't allowed in here, pig! The bartender spits on Domingo's left boot. The foreigner silently lifts his leg to inspect the impressive projectile before returning it to the floor. Ryder looks at the smooth one's eyes, turns clockwise back towards the exit, and then swiftly turns a 180 as he kicks the barkeep's head with his left boot, knocking him down into the wall behind him and jingling the sake on the shelves. I'm American. Now go fetch me rice, water, sugar, and cinnamon, said Domingo, taking a seat next to his companion. The owner holds the back of his head and runs into the back room while stuttering, Gomen nasai! Gomen nasai! As sounds of rummaging through inventory echo through the wooden building, Matsumoto says, We could have simply left for the other izakaya yado in town. Ryder retorts wryly, If this barman is more worried about the shape of my eyes than the 2 guns and 2 swords we carried in openly, that means he won't warn anybody and will be able to bushwhack the temple. The Ronin nods before saying, His karma demanded someday. I gave bartender a bloody nose in America for that too. Domingo chuckles and asks a question. Really? When was this? Matsumoto retracts his arms to within his kimono and explains. It was 1860, a California saloon. I only spoke 3 English words back then. Hi, bye, and whiskey. Asked for a whiskey and he said he doesn't serve Chinamen. I drew my katana and hit him with the dull side. Behind me someone pulled a gun. I drew my wakizashi and pointed it at his neck. I was ready to die sober when a man yelled, Stop! And started to clap. Before Ryder can ask who, Matsumoto turns to face him and says, Cartwright to Valentine. Both of them look at one another quietly, and the wind blows cold air through the establishment's doorway for a moment. I have your ingredients. Ryder looks up at the bartender who placed the goods on the bar and says, Sit down. I want you to enjoy this with me now that we're so intimately acquainted. The pair of observers gaze at this grizzled bounty hunter as he places 4 tall sticks of cinnamon on the bar, pours both a jug of water, and empties a third of a hefty sack of rice into a pot. Cut the cinnamon over the water, says Domingo after adjusting the flame beneath it. Matsumoto calmly draws his wakizashi and grips the brown stick of bark extract with his other hand, slicing pieces of it using small, gentle motions. At the same time, Ryder stirs the mixture with a ladle. 2 fully chopped sticks later, The water begins to boil and a strong, sweet aroma fills the room. Keep cutting, it's almost there. Shifting around in his cross-legged seat on the floor, the barkeep's mouth starts to drool. Ryder grabs a handful of sugar from a bag, and the trio watches the heavenly cascade escape from his left hand into the growling water. He resumes stirring as the samurai seated to his right cuts the final stick of cinnamon. Looking at the bartender, Domingo says, "Get 3 cups, andale!" He follows the demand and retrieves a few squared-off ceramic mugs from below the table. It's ready. The yellow poncho-wearing gunslinger says, as he turns towards the yellow kimono-wearing Ronin. "You have some first, I'll serve you." Matsumoto takes a sip from the steaming cup, and he exclaims, "Oishi!" The patron-turned mixologist informs the others, "It's called horchata, my favorite." Ryder fills a mug and hands it to the barkeep. He reaches for the cup before it's pulled back suddenly, while the Westerner utters, "Say to Cartwright Valentine." The 3 drinkers touch mugs and cheer the name of Cartwright Valentine, before gulping the drink down. Chapter 4. Sunraizu Sutaraida. Yakushi-ji Temple, East Pagoda. The red morning sun silhouettes a single black paradise flycatcher standing upon the soren of the Buto, watching silvergrass fields sway and bow in the lukewarm autumn wind. His top knot of hair moving similarly, the last of the Matsumoto family walks through the waves of brush with his haughty hired hunter of humans and horrors in tow. Ascending the slope, they spot 13 Imperial soldiers marching out from behind the base of the 3-story temple. Ryder and the Ronin lay down in the silvergrass, concealing themselves as they watch the guards move in formation around the building. Matsumoto grits his teeth and says, "The Cicada clan lost their special class as samurai and are far weaker than they used to be, but they could still bribe the army with my ancestors' treasure. I knew something like this would happen." He whispers this as he reaches for a long piece of bamboo. The gunslinger begins plotting out loud. "One shot too many for me to wipe them out from here, and they can put out a lot more firepower at once. It'd be better to get close." Standing tall and suddenly, the yellow with black striped swordsman runs towards the 13 troops with a shaft of bamboo in both his hands. "Aramu!" yells one of the 3 officers directing the formation. The whole unit splits into 2 groups of 4 and 1 group of 3. 4 riflemen take aim at Matsumoto, 3 firing as he leaps and jabs the bamboo into the soil, vaulting over the volley while hanging onto the pole. The one with the bullet still in its chamber hefts the model 1870 Snyder Enfield carbine at the sky, and tries to point it at the skyward strider, but catches a bullet in his stomach courtesy of Domingo. He retches backward in pain and fires his rifle in a random direction, ricocheting off the 2nd-story ceiling of the pagoda and tearing a hole in its paper wall. His mouth opens to yell when a katana shoves inside it, splitting his tongue and penetrating through the back of his head, impaling him to the dirt while standing. He closes his left eye and watches his 3 comrades, paralyzed with fear, as the Ronin draws his wakizashi, swings once in a horizontal motion, and places it back in the saya. The 3 soldiers spray a fountain of blood as they fall over, and the impaled one's vision goes dark as he gazes at the red katana, his head slowly sliding down while he returns to the earth and loses his footing. Ryder sees his partner retrieving his blade from the victim's mouth as he dashes towards the fray. A soldier surprises him as he rises from the tall silvergrass in ambush, pointing his carbine at the gunslinger. He uses his right leg to kick the trooper's arm and throw off his aim, while simultaneously drawing the knife secured in his right boot, stabbing the Imperial in the heart before placing the foot back on the ground. He has trouble removing the blade from the warm meat and hunches over the corpse, fiddling with the edged weapon. Matsumoto sees a guard aiming a rifle at him, and he grips the katana with both arms, holding the blade above his head. Shink! The samurai slices the bullet diagonally in 2. One half flies behind him and strikes another trooper looking to kill the Ronin, shredding his testicles in a wet splash and crippling him with agonizing pain, causing him to scream at the top of his lungs. The other half of the bullet knocks Domingo's hat off his head. He flips around and shoots the distant gunman in the left eye with his Colt 6-shooter. He gives up on retrieving the knife and draws his .44 Smith & Wesson with his other hand. He spots a quartet of riflemen charging out from behind the cover of the pagoda, and all aiming at Matsumoto in a single line, preparing to engage in volley fire. Closing his right eye, he aims at the row of soldiers and opens fire. A single true shot passes through all 4 of the quartet's necks. They all lose composure, and a cacophony of the men gargling on their own blood can be heard. "Ikuzo!" Matsumoto hears this from behind after witnessing the tetra kill. An officer is charging with his blade held high. The warrior in yellow slashes the adversary's chest and makes him drop his sword, before chopping directly into his cranium with an overhead swing, cleaving his skull. The katana is stuck, and another officer is approaching. Mira! The Ronin looks to his right and sees a single-action army revolver flying through the air. He catches it and cocks the hammer, shooting the belligerent officer in the heart. Ryder grins and is about to pat his fellow on the back when he's startled by a battle cry. Banzai! An officer with a pistol in his left hand and a sword in his right is thundering towards him. The duelists point and fire their guns at the same time. The two bullets collide in midair and produce a small, bright explosion. The American closes his eyes, and the soldier drops his pistol while rearing his sword, preparing for a swing at his opponent's neck. Matsumoto grabs the tsuka of his katana, kicks the kneeling corpse free of the blade, and chops the officer's hands off. The army sword sticks in the ground, hand still firmly attached. The officer roars and attempts a headbutt Ryder as the gunslinger places his big 44 iron in his foaming mouth and says, Boi Nintendo. Chapter 5. Shisha no Tame no Gyanburu. A pair of leather boots, side by side with a pair of waraji sandals, ascend 4.5 stone steps to the west door of the pagoda. The samurai kicks open the wooden door and scans the clean, somewhat barren interior, making eye contact with the burly man clad in a green kimono, crouching with one arm hanging over his knee while holding a naginata resting on his back, the blade of which was hovering in front of the interior staircase. This Cicada clan warrior, hunched before him, clears his throat before asking a question. Is that the Matsumoto mantis crest I see on your katana? Ryder watches the Ronin grip the handle on his sheathed blade and step to the right of the room. I'm Matsumoto Raido. Over 10 years ago, Matsumoto Satoshi and Matsumoto Kai were surrounded at this very buto and honorably took their own lives. The husky man scratches his posterior and rises from the floor. I'm sorry to hear that. I joined Cicada 6 years ago. I only heard tales of the battle that took place here. Domingo begins to whisper to Matsumoto in English so the guard can't eavesdrop. Hey, want me to shoot that guy? Ain't no way he could chop lead as good as you. The Avenger in yellow, 2 black stripes, turns and gives him a look that could kill. Seeing this, the gunslinger nods and steps backwards towards the wall silently. Spinning the long polearm around himself horizontally, the Cicada clan warrior performs a series of intricate twirls with the weapon, swapping the hand he manipulates it with rapidly and skillfully, while glaring intensely at the intruding samurai. Ryder hears a whisper from the swordsman in front of him. It's my duty. Grabbing the .44 Smith & Wesson from his friend's holster, he moves towards the spear wielder slowly as he cocks the hammer. Too slow! The opponent swings the immense naginata at Matsumoto's waist. As he does so, the Ronin runs to the right and leaps, his right sandal and left hand making contact with the wall. Just before the blade reaches his left hip, he kicks off the wall and flips upside down in midair over the strike and fires the hand cannon. The naginata drops to the floor broken in half. Hand on his knee, wheezing, the defeated gags before saying, Why fight unevenly? What about your honor? Placing the warm gun within a hidden holster in the center of his kimono, the vengeful one exhales and raises his voice. Bushido is shit! Lofty ideals that trip you on your hike through life. He walks back and forth as he says this. I'm alive because I not have foolish, time-wasting principles. Those men outside could have dropped their weapons and given up, but Bushido tell them they must fight and die. Blood starts to spray from the Cicada clan warrior as he loses balance and opens his mouth. You lost honor. You're going to Jigoku. The Ronin replies swiftly. Jigoku is a life poorly lived. The hulking figure collapses to the floor with a thud. The gold statue of Buddha at the back of the room slides sideways a little from the impact. Domingo runs over to check if he's actually dead, turns to Matsumoto, and says, You should work for P.T. Barnum. That was fantastic. The samurai steps onto the staircase while saying, He can't afford my rates. The Shibun and the Cazador climb a sturdy staircase, entering a dank room where mold and mushrooms grow on some of the columns and wall panels. As they tread across the floor, a voice can be heard from behind the central pillar. Your bullets won't work from here on. Raido and Ryder turn towards the sound and draw their irons simultaneously, aiming at the spiny figure emerging from cover and running towards them. They both fan the guns, rapidly emptying 6 cylinders each. 12 metallic whistling noises later, the spiked warrior is still running. I warned you. The bullets all ricocheted off of the foe's thick metal armor. He swings a punch at Matsumoto's head with his sharpened steel fist. The samurai ducks and evades his dangerous body, feeling a slight tickle on the back of his neck as he does so. After reaching the other side of the room, he feels hair hanging down, realizing the blow wasn't entirely evaded, and its top knot fastener was cut off by the spike. When Domingo is moving to the opposite end of the arena, one footstep ringing a wet splash along his path, a shine in the wall blinds him for a moment. He inspects the wall closer and realizes a small hole is allowing a tinge of dawn sunlight into the dark domain. The spiny defender pipes up. Your weapons cannot best this steel. It was made with the same techniques as a katana, and can take an entire regiment of crossbow archers worth of punishment. Flee, turn your back on this temple. The hired gun pats his comrade in a similar yellow with black stripes outfit on the back and says, "Turn, spit." Matsumoto nods and smiles. The armored shell man begins to sweat and think this to himself. What? Do they know? No, they couldn't possibly know. I'll play jump rope with their entrails by the end of the day. Ryder moves slowly to the left of the armored antagonizer with his back to the wall, while reloading his Colt single-action army, keeping his eyes locked on the opponent while flawlessly and furiously handling his fearsome tool of the trade. As he does so, Raido Matsumoto continues to grin and moves straight towards his sharp adversary. He returns the pistol to its holster and retrieves his katana at the same time, turning his smile into a toothy grimace, and tilts his chin down while obtaining sight of the target, who is backing away from him. Domingo pulls back the hammer on the 45 with a loud click, and it makes the second-floor guardian flinch, quickly turning his head to the foreigner. The armored warrior's outstretched, spiked gauntlets rip holes in the paper wall he's pressing his back to. He hears the neighboring stream flow through the riverbank before a bird sitting on the outer balcony takes off from the railing and pecks him in the back of his neck. He bites his cheek and a teardrop emanates from his right eye as he tries his hardest not to show pain. Matsumoto quickly swings his katana overhead at the armored assaulter and he catches it with his left hand of steel. At the same moment, Ryder strikes the paper wall with his left elbow before sticking his gun-toting arm through the hole, firing it at the Cicada Clan man's unarmored back. The Guardian lets go of the Ronin's blade, wails, and falls forward, his spikes getting trapped in the matted floor. He writhes in pain, face down, unable to escape the predicament as Matsumoto grips his sword with both hands and stabs it downward into his heart. A loud guttural coughing can be heard from the vanquished as his killer twists the katana, before removing it and wiping the blood off using the central Shinbashira of the pagoda. "How did you know his back wasn't covered?" says the Ronin as he cleans the blade of its warm filth. Ryder responds, "There was a bullet hole on the wall over there with a blood stain under the beam of light coming out of it. It don't take a Da Vinci to figure that one out." Matsumoto puts his weapon back in its place before saying, "Arigato." As he climbs the final staircase, the samurai reloads his .44 Smith & Wesson, spinning the cylinder after inserting the last cartridge. "I told you not to do that. It's bad for guns." The Ronin shrugs and replies, "Sometimes you have to do what's bad for your body, but good for your mind." Both fully prepared, R&R enter the top floor of the East Pagoda, the dual death dealers dashing destiny directly. The two scan the room and see silk scarves, intricately detailed gold sightseas looted from China, as well as a magnificently large curved tachi resting upon a red rack. Leaning on the column in the front of this horde is a thin man with skin pale like a corpse, holding a katana with an emerald green tsuka. "Put him on the spit." "Height." The Shibun and the Cazador split up, moving to opposite sides of the room and taking aim at the ghastly Guardian. Ryder chuckles before firing. Shink shink! Ah! In a single, fluid motion, the white figure sliced both bullets approaching him. Half of Matsumoto's shot was redirected into Domingo's left foot, dropping the gunslinger to the floor in pain. The final foe sees this and dashes towards Ryder to finish him off. Matsumoto holsters the gun with his right hand and draws his wakizashi with his left simultaneously as he sprints to his ally's rescue. Just after removing the blade from his saya, his enemy bends over backwards and stabs towards the Ronin, dislocating his own pasty shoulder with a loud crack from the wanton maneuver. The samurai's eyes widen as he feels the pain of a slice on his right hip. He does a short hop and retreat as Ryder fires once more. Shink! Half the bullet opens a hole in the wall, and the other half nearly misses the man in the yellow kimono's right foot, cutting the fastener above his toes and loosening the sandal, leaving the swordsman with only one. "Stop shooting! It's useless!" Matsumoto says this as he pulls out his katana and throws it forward with gusto. It misses the attacker due to him twisting his torso sideways with another noisy crack, this time from his spine. The katana stabs into the wall above Domingo. He quickly grabs it and uses it to lift himself from the ground. The Ronin blocks a sideways strike from the ghastly guardian's katana and riposts with a stab that tears a hole in the opponent's green pants, but nothing more. The wounded American yanks the katana out of the wall and grips it with both fists. He screams and runs towards the final foe, swinging it diagonally downwards at his head. The guardian crouches and blocks both this swing and Matsumoto's coming from the other direction, using an outstretched grip on his rusted blade, emblazoned with a cicada symbol. While pressing down on his attacker's sword, the Ronin removes his right hand from the wakizashi, draws his revolver, and blasts a pale killer in both of his bent knees. Both shatter and sever from his lower leg. He drops the green katana and lands point first on the matted floor. Gazing at both of his attackers, he lets out a defiant roar and they each rear their blades. The Japanese Avenger and his journeyman cut the Cicada Clan warrior into over 24 pieces. They chop open a hole in the wall of the pagoda and throw all of its parts into the nearby river, dyeing it red. Later that night, each of them are walking down the main dirt road in town, dragging sacks of gold, donning multiple snow-white silk scarves, all while Matsumoto wears the immense heirloom tachi on his back. Out of the shadows, a smooth bare leg blocks Ryder's path. A woman in a loose kimono adorned with pink cranes smiles at him using her bright red lips and steps close to him. Domingo grins with his teeth showing, and then the woman gasps, proceeding to run away. "Wait! Come back! What did I do wrong?" yells the man limping down the street in a yellow poncho. Matsumoto's brow furrows as he watches the lady of the night. Then Ryder turns to face him and he laughs hysterically. "What's so funny?" Ryder explains. "You have blood on your teeth." Domingo feels his canines and examines his finger. A large red drip oozes off of it and down to the dirt. He starts chortling along with the samurai. That was it for Sunrise Striders. If you somehow haven't listened to the first one, check it out on my channel. It's called Inferno Strider. Also be sure to check out my fiction press, my fanfiction.net, my Wattpad, and my archive of our own account. They got the rest of my stories. There'll be more audiobooks to come. Stay tuned.